Hello, everyone. You're welcome back again to this particular broadcast on Nigerian affairs. This particular broadcast is going to focus on coronavirus, the COVID-19, and the state of Nigerian media. So, with me to discuss this very salient topic is Dr. Wale from University of Suffolk in Manchester. So, we are going to have a very this particular broadcast is going to focus on not only theoretical issues but issues surrounding the political leadership and other areas of interest as regards media and its relations. I mean, its major relation to the COVID-19 disaster in Nigeria. But on Saturday, we plan to rebroadcast or recast that the one we missed the last time on leadership response and COVID-19. So, hello, are you? I think you are here now with me now in the studio. So I'm going to, um, okay, Dr. Oni. So
Yes, I can hear you.
what is the state of the Nigerian media? As in, what can you say? Can you provide a little bit of evaluation of the state of the Nigerian media so far as regards COVID-19?
Oh, yes, I should say, but I've been following the trends
Okay,
with regards to COVID-19 and the responses of the Nigerian news media,
okay,
both offline and I mean both mainstream media
hmm,
and the online independent media.
okay,
uh, Trying to see what's going on, what new things are they doing, and what traditional approaches have they been using in managing news production, news process,
mm.
and then of course news dissemination. So
Yeah.
it's been an interesting time.
Yeah. I think that's introductory position from you is very, very salient here. But there is something that I think that we should look at, and that's the fact that uh, most of the, I mean, if you take a very critical look at how Nigerian media as a whole, both the traditional, the legacy media, and the new media, as an
Yeah,
emerging trend, as emerging trends
yeah,
in broadcasting or media broadcasting in Nigeria. It seems
yeah,
that we've not really witnessed any form of transformation from the old ways of doing things because from what we've witnessed so far, we've seen a situation, especially very good example is the way the Nigerian Union of the NUJ, Nigerian Union of Journalists, the way they
yeah,
seemed to legitimize, I mean, they legitimized uh, that propaganda or that fake information on COVID-19
yeah,
and 5G, and they actually came out as a body to really they really push that narrative in a way. Their president
yeah,
and I think one of the executive members also like brought out a communique signed by them stating that
yeah,
COVID-19 is linked to 5G. So what I'm trying
yeah,
to, what I'm that in this era of misinformation, misinformation, disinformation. So what can you say
yeah.
about the Nigerian media as a, I mean, as a political entity? Let's put them together as just an actor within the specific political construct of Nigeria. What can you say?
Oh, thank you for that. If I should begin with, it's quite unfortunate that we witnessed that kind of intervention from the executives of the NUJ.
Hmm.
It's one bad action with a lot of loaded meaning.
Okay.
So I want to believe it's not something that should be encouraged, but we should know where that kind of influence, came from.
Mm.
In a situation whereby you have people towing towards, religious influence,
Okay.
and they could not actually set aside their religious influence when it interferes with their daily businesses. So you wouldn't, you know, I want to
Okay.
see some of these things coming. It's pathetic in the sense that one of the axes through which misinformation came into the news ecology.
Okay.
Uh, came through the religious leaders, especially that's as pronounced by the head of an organization, a media organization. No, pardon me, religious organizations and winners.
Oh,
Uh, no, Christ Assembly, I should say.
oh, Christ
Yeah.
Embassy.
So
Christ Embassy.
Christ Embassy, yeah, the
Yeah.
Christ Embassy. See that's it. When you've got multiplicity of names, you wouldn't can't preempt mixing, putting them all together in one swoop. So
Yes.
that being said, I want to believe some of those kind of influence could also permeate into media, especially news editors' desk.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to. You see when you see your bishop or you see your pastor, your daddy geos and whatever the all and all and the voice of the Almighty God. Even when they hear in their speeches, you saw such error, such misinformation will definitely find their ways into the mainstream, news media, and then of course, as a medium for documenting events, historical antecedents in the polity. We will be shocked if in the nearest future uh, people will fall into some of these things and they start reading that as part of our history. That's just the
I think that there is okay. What I can bring from what you, I mean, what I can extract from what you've just said is the fact that the influence of Christianity or religious organization on most of the people,
exact.
most of the media leaders, the practitioners,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
maybe those who are presenters, editors, and what have
yes,
you, news
yes.
readers, and what have you.
That's
So even the journalists
yeah,
gathering this news, you can't really
yeah.
we can't really remove their communicative subjectivity, like their subjective
They can't
bias in the way they
exactly.
construct news, in the way they manufacture news, really, because
Exactly, exactly.
or what they include in I mean, content that they include in their media narrative. And like from what I
Mhm.
can extract from what you just said, it's just like when we say that for instance, most of these presenters or let's say journalists, they won't really
Yeah.
want to criticize whoever is their general overseer. Some of them are even
Oh
pastors.
no, yes.
Some of them are
Exactly.
pastors. Some of them are imams or
Exactly.
afars.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
hold religious positions, and
Yeah.
that bias is very clear
Yeah.
in the way they construct news and the
Exactly.
kind of people that they construct as mediagenic individuals. These are
Yes,
people
exactly.
like that are perpetual, let's say perpetual all-knowing on all
Yes,
issue,
yes,
and
yes, and
and
yeah,
and I think I would want you to maybe a little bit elaborate on the democratization of the media and how that has affected the way people, the multiplicity of platforms, and
yeah,
with media liberalization, the liberalism as it affects the media, where you can
yeah,
just, if you have your own camera, your own, you don't need to have any
yeah,
training, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
there are no proper training. Even if you just have a first degree, you can speak English, you can write grammar very well, then you are a journalist.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
then, how do you now? How do we bring that into the influence of that in the quality of media narrative and the I mean media representation these days? Because
Yeah.
if we are going to be when there is disaster in some serious places, okay, I'm trying to provide a little bit
Mm,
of background in here so that when you come in, at
mm,
least you'll be able to provide your own expert opinion on that, since you are
yes.
a media psychologist. So
Yeah.
when we look at the way, for instance, what's his name? Most of these, anytime there is a kind of disaster event towards the end of last of the year, every year, and the beginning of a new year,
Yeah.
we usually witnessed how these people will be consulted. You see pastors, prophets, and all other. I don't want to use I don't want to use my own valuative expression on them because it might be termed as biased,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
they are consulted on virtually all issues. Oh, that the GO said the economy
Mm,
is going to be okay, there is going to be disaster.
yeah.
They are giving more prominence than even scholars, scientists, and economists and experts on this issue, unlike in other places.
Yeah.
So you now see situation
That's
by even people like Pastor Chris that you mentioned of Christ Embassy making
yeah.
scientific statements expressing scientific opinion on issues that he had no training about. But because, of course, anybody can speak for Holy Spirit is all knowing.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
is the assumption there. So I want you to come in here now and maybe provide a kind of background there. I mean, to that issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, you see, if we need put this in the context of historical context of the emergence of the media in Nigeria, so we will see where some of the influences
Okay.
are coming from typically,
Okay.
and then of course it will also give us a very good ground to really analyze what the current situation that we are in.
Okay.
Given the fact that you mentioned the democratization of the media, especially the media sphere in Nigeria, uh, it has a double-edged it's a double-edged sword kind of situation, but it has its own merit and demerit. So in terms of creating alternatives platform for people to both hear their views and also receive information, it has opened the news ecosystem to a lot of varieties of and news products. So with that, it's a good thing. We have always been talking about a system of information exchange where everyone would be an actor in the information exchange. There
Okay.
wouldn't be minority or majority voice dominating or drowning other voices within the information exchange. So with the multiplicity nature of the media, the democratized aspect of it,
Okay.
it has its positive influence in some of those things that I've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Several brands, several systems, I mean several products, and so with that you can get your information easily. And these are also news produced by the people for the people in a
Okay.
way. And so how best can an individual or community represent its information flow, if not from its own perspective, but in a situation whereby they have also become a veritable channel for misinformation and fake news. It's something to worry about. The blogosphere, for instance, has been so bastardized in Nigeria, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to believe just because there are no fair policy to actually manage the space. Given
Okay.
the fact that everybody clamors for freedom of speech and whatever, yes,
Okay.
even with the freedom of speech comes some responsibilities, and it's quite also it's appalling why them also want to be in the same frame as journalists in their creation, even having not
But,
gone into the
but
same into training.
okay.
And you want to say
But
something, please?
can we also say that it's also about one of the fallout of democratization of the media is what you just mentioned, and that is that particular aspect I think is very important really for us to emphasize very well.
Yeah, yes,
That aspect
it is
of
one of
anybody is just everybody is a journalist. The blogosphere. I mean,
yeah.
you can set up a blog and
So to say,
dictate
we
news.
can put it into two.
Okay,
A lot of them, the blogosphere, in that blogging
space.
space, do not necessarily claim to be journalists per se.
Okay,
They are more like they represent a kind of bad situation. Where you want to be in the bread space, and at the same time you also want to be the mama space. It's like they operate, they hover around that concept. When it suits them, they want to be journalists, and when it doesn't suit them, they want to be something else. That's
so
just
I think that is also very something that I think I personally find very fascinating because whenever they are held to
yeah,
account, maybe after maybe for writing fake news or when they are arrested
exactly,
for misinforming the public, then they claim, oh, we are not
exactly.
journalists, we are activists.
We are not
So
exactly,
we're activists.
exactly,
So they
exactly.
don't want to
So
be responsible. Is that what
they
I
don't
what?
want to be responsible. Exactly,
Because with
exactly.
every great power comes
Yeah,
great responsibility. Really.
exactly. So If I one of my attempts, to trying to speak with the owner of Sahara Reporters way back, even when before his venture into politics,
Okay.
uh, I read, in part as he stated that he's not a journalist. He was always stressing it that
Mm-hmm.
he's not a journalist,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody sees him as a journalist, and when it suits him, also he wants himself into that space and
Okay.
call himself.
Like,
Jonah, if interview him tomorrow now,
yeah.
I'm quite sure if you interview him tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
and you happen to ask him if he's a journalist or not, I want to believe he's going to tell you he's
Well,
not.
maybe
But
I think it depends
uh,
on. I think it depends on the context rather. People assume various identity when it suits them. They portray particular
exactly,
identity, but when it does not,
exactly.
then they assume another identity. Just like when you ask
Yes,
him or many other people who are of that particular EU, you hear
uh,
something like,
uh,
"Oh, I'm not a politician. I'm an
yeah,
activist.
exactly.
Uh, but
I'm an,
uh, uh, but uh, but I also own a media outfit." Then you ask yourself,
I've,
are you a
that,
journalist, or are you an activist, or are you a politician? Which one are you? So I think
yeah,
I get that.
yes,
But what is the implication of all this now? Having the implication of all this to this COVID narrative, because a lot of people now, they believe that narrative that, okay, if this thing could come from the trusted media, like this information of, oh, COVID-19 is related to 5G, then
mm-hmm.
it must be true, because these are supposed to be platforms where people they have access to information that most people don't have access to, and
That's
then you are expected to do research before publishing anything. And so the assumption is that, okay, these people, if they say so, if NUJ should come out and maybe legitimize a particular position or reinforce a particular narrative, then that narrative must be
yeah.
truthful. So in this era of misinformation, what I think the burden now, what can we, is it that, okay, can we attribute this to their limited training or lack of training at all, since that space seems to be all covers affair? What do you think? What do you say?
Yes, there is no way you can practice journalism without going through some form of training,
Okay.
and apart from the your training, your background in news gathering, your background in news writing,
Okay.
you are also expected to take some modules and some courses in media law.
Okay.
But if you don't take some of those courses, you find yourself getting into libelous publication and slanderous publication. So it's not it won't be too far from you. But because of the uh, nebulous atmosphere through
Hmm.
which the blogs operates, it's always very difficult to pin down who is doing who.
Hmm.
For instance, we set up a blog, in the US, set up blogs in the UK or somewhere else in the world,
Okay.
and it's being viewed in Nigeria. How do you manage that intervention when people in Nigeria are the ones putting content out there,
Okay.
and it's even it goes beyond what the textual nature of the blogs now.
Hmm.
It's also one into the video log, the vlog era now,
Yeah.
where people pick up their smartphones and they give credence to misinformation by sitting down in their cars and then rendering their own opinion
On issues.
on national issues and which where they obviously lack competence or expertise on.
Hmm.
So it's this kind of empowerment that we are now. It's while we
Okay. I think.
while we
Okay. Go ahead.
yeah, we celebrate its emergence, as
Okay.
we media, when at least everybody now has the capacity to produce. But yeah, here we are in the era of I mean fake news.
Yeah,
So and I
but
want to
but
give
but
some
if you also look at it in a way, when we look at it in another way, apart from the benefit of it, like now, unlike in the past where we had is it vertical structure where sources of information were limited, and then the
yeah.
established authority, the government of the day, they determine
Mm-hmm.
They determined what should constitute news and what should constitute information, how, and then the direction of information flow. But now,
Yeah.
with all great inventions and technologies come, uh, what do you call it? Every
But
other,
yes.
some unforeseen circumstances, and some part of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
the consequences could be democratization
Yeah.
also of fake news, not only of news itself, and legitimization
Yeah.
of falsehood. Because
Yeah.
that in some of these established places, you can't just if you want to, if you know, for instance, if you are broadcasting something, let me use Press TV for instance on YouTube. It's stated
Okay.
there. You will see
Yeah.
who are there. I mean, is this a public interest or is it a government interest media?
Yeah.
But nothing of such. A
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of political parties established. You can't just establish, for instance, in the US or any other places where they practice some form of
Mm,
advanced democracy. You can't just establish a media
mm-hmm.
house without, and as a political party,
Mm-hmm.
without stating, I mean, being open about it, that okay, this particular television station is for our political party.
Yeah.
Not that you will be misinforming the
Yeah.
public and calling your TV station a what do you call it? You call it your media outfit, a public interest outfit, but it's a kind of
Mm-hmm.
propaganda arm of a political party, thereby misinforming the people, misinforming the public. And I think also
Yeah.
because of the responsibilities of most government, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria, when
Mm-hmm.
even people publish when journalists publish fake news or libel, in fact libel is tantamount to oppression now these days. You can say anything against anybody, and when you are sued to court, you just put on the toga of activists, and then by
Yeah.
default people assume that journalists are innocuous.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be wrong, and then I
Yeah.
mean they are assumed not to be wrong. So that's another
Yeah.
dimension to that. But now in this era of COVID-19 thing, let's look at the role of government as regards media now, because if you notice something during the two maybe the two media is it should I call it a presentation or
Yeah.
broadcast by the
Yeah.
presidential broadcast. Some people have
Yeah.
alleged that certain media houses were privileged, others were excluded. So what can you see is government? I mean, what's the role of government and the media in this regard, please?
Yes. It's like it's a patronage that dates back into the uh, pre and post colonial era. So there's no way we can diverge the Nigerian political system from the Nigerian media system. Although at a point maybe there are also instances of heavy commercialization
Okay,
too. So it's a mixed bag of politicization and commercialization. That just defines the typical Nigerian media system. Uh,
so the
if
envelope
we
journalist.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really heavy. It's really heavy when it comes to heavily influenced by politics. Both whether it's the print and the broadcast media in Nigeria. Although the print has tried as much as possible to win itself off the influences of the political system, but that being said, there are still some, level of, influence in the marketization.
Mm,
For instance, governments as an heavy spender in advertising
okay,
space within the print industry.
okay.
If government withdraws, patronage,
Mm,
from the print, for instance, look at Punch, for instance,
okay.
having issue with the presidency.
Yeah.
How much federal government or state under the ruling party, they can suspend
Advert.
any advert or advertisement going towards the Punch, for instance, because of the stance the party, I mean the newspaper took during I think Showore's during Showore's saga and whatever, and then their
Mm.
declaration to be calling the president
General Muhammadu
Major,
Buhari.
yes, Major General so
I, I,
with
yeah,
that's like
I think
open.
that's also sorry. I think that's also speaks to the to what we have been saying all this while. and the fact that
yeah,
the seemingly blurred line
mm-hmm,
between the media and activist group and
mm-hmm,
political group.
mm-hmm,
Because if
mm-hmm,
you are a media organization, you expect to be an impartial
mm-hmm,
observer. Leave the activism to the activists. Okay,
mm-hmm.
okay. So it's when you are
Yeah,
a media for you to be trusted, because since most everybody reading your platform, or what do you call it? Yeah, platform now,
yeah,
they
yeah,
have across different religion, different ethnicity, different political
yeah, yeah,
let me
yeah,
say spectrums now. So
yeah,
it will be, but if you are a media outfit and you have not really been able to define, I mean, your, what do you call it? If you are supposed, you ought to be a kind of, or let me say, independent. If you portray or project the image of
mm-hmm,
an independent observer, then
yeah,
much as some of us have issues with the president or any political, any politician for that matter, the press,
mm-hmm,
the press, especially if the press is not a kind of maybe a kind of social movement, or a kind of
mm-hmm,
an arm of a particular political party, it's expected to be
mm-hmm,
impartial. But
mm-hmm.
because if you chose to say, okay, our position on the president is, we call him Major General Buhari, as a kind of spite
Mm-hmm.
or what have you, whether justified or not, invariably
Mm-hmm.
you have already ceded yourself to the opposition. You have turned yourself to an
Exactly.
opposition.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
exact.
as a journalist, or as independent journal, you are supposed to be like impartial, project whatever is there, and
Impartial.
leave the interpretation to others,
Yeah,
to the people
yeah,
to make. But having said
yeah.
that, I think also what I can also bring out from this so far, what you have said, this aspect of brown envelope journalism, where people
Mm-hmm.
who have let's say, so the patronage system that you've mentioned, where those governments
Yeah,
constitutes a kind of the largest chunk of advertisement. I mean, most of these media houses
yeah.
uh,
It's so it's a
do. That,
place. Yeah,
the influence. So now it will be difficult for such, for in that kind of arrangement, for
yeah.
them to be totally independent. And then if they want to
Exact.
exercise that independence, government can wield the big stick to say, okay, let's not give them adverts again, so that they won't be criticizing us. So,
Exact.
but
Exact.
in this case, in the case of COVID, I think excluding, this is a national security issue, and then
Mm.
excluding any media house for that matter, it's going to be reactionary in a way, and it's not going to be, it's retrogressive, to say the least,
Yeah,
because when
yeah.
everybody, both political parties across board, should come together to address this national issue. It's when there is a country, when there are people alive, that you play politics, or that you carry out politics. If people are dead, then you'll be able to carry out politics. So this is although
Mm-hmm.
politics is, everything is political anyways, but bringing
Yeah,
people together at this point, excluding people, because if you bring only people who can serve as echo chamber to reinforce your own bias or your opinion without
I
getting the
asked.
other side,
Yes.
then you leave room for people to speculate. Those other parties who are
Exact.
excluded can start speculating,
Exactly.
start
Exactly.
constructing or concocting
Exact.
information. And what I want to ask again is, this still in relations to this, relation to the media thing that we have been talking about, and the government.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the direction of flow seem to be reactionary anyway. Most you see.
Yeah.
So what can you say about that? Like the government responding all the time to, in quote, fake news.
It's yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So they say
It's just that.
everything that is against government is fake news these days. What can you say to that
Yes.
particular behavior
Exact.
of reacting?
Yeah, in an atmosphere where you are not proactive, of course you leave
Okay.
room for speculations. You leave room for people to start making guesses. And in our environment where uh, uh, people are so very creative, we are storytellers tellers as Africans. Some of that that background can also influence generating stories or narrative where there are none. So in that regard, so, the presidency, the media arm of the presidency have always been very, 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 reactive ever since. They have not actually, tried to set agenda.
Okay.
They assume the position of spring masters
Okay.
anytime issues about presidency comes. But having said that, they can set agenda.
Okay.
They can set agenda perfectly, reading the minds of the Nigerian people, and testing them in relation to, whatever is in vogue at a particular time,
Okay.
rather than waiting for them to be, waiting for waiting for Nigerians to call the president out and then you now start, defending, or waiting for one of the maybe an opinion movers in the country to say something and then you want to counter that.
Mm.
That shouldn't be the position.
Mm.
At every point in time, you should know what next can we do in order to position our principle, in order to open up, and give some, kind of reflection in terms of status, in terms of identity. It's their duty to project it. It is not only to protect, but to project.
Mm.
Sometimes when they try to do some of these projections, they
Mm.
often will, they take the wrong approach.
Mm.
And then that's just because over the years, Nigerians are not used to that kind of event. If you you need to train the citizenry in media literacy. You need
Mm.
to try to give them, it's like the psychology learning experiment, where when you ring a bell and then of course you give a meal to the dog. If you start ringing the bell and the food is not coming, definitely the dog will start salivating at some point.
Mm.
So in that kind of environment, citizenry can be trained towards that kind of, give them what to expect.
Mm.
If they say we are like this, we want you to say, to speak with us, get to know get to know the country, get to know the yearnings of the people, and serve them accordingly.
Mm.
That is how it ought to have been done. But when you now refrain and you are constructing your own identity, you are
Mm.
constructing your own, status, that might, some give you a lot of problem in terms of
Mm.
how you are read by the so those are some of the things that we witness with the presidency and the main media handlers. It's not they've been, I can't say they are really up there doing the good job. Yeah, they are
Yes.
good at defending anyway, but that shouldn't be the position to hold at every time.
Yeah, you are right because when you look at how they've been able to I mean the response so far has been very disappointing really because
Yeah,
I mean having when you look at the way I mean the way they've been, let me say the way they've, I don't want to use all the construct the way they've constructed power, but the way they've
yeah,
what they are sending out, the message they are passing out to the public is the message of
exactly.
like us versus them. So
Yeah,
they wait for an event, so they wish away events. It took
yeah,
massive, almost a blackmail by somebody who is even outside one imam of peace or and some other people critic to get the
yeah, yeah.
president to respond.
The president.
At some
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
the special, I mean, is it Femi Adesina on media to the president, special advisor, I think, to the president on the media,
Mm-hmm.
went on air and
Yeah.
start defending the president, saying something like, "Oh, the president is not in his habit to talk to the people. He has his own style."
Good.
Like,
Yeah. You are just
what kind of
because
leader is like is that? I mean, how can you? What kind of lead? I mean, what image of leadership are we portraying really? Because if you are
yeah,
saying that okay, if you are saying that okay, like okay, you don't want to talk to the people, and that you are above the people you are supposed to like lead, then that means you are not a leader. You can't talk to communication is part of leadership really. So and
it
if they
is.
have to beg you in a case situation of national security, you that you have been parading
Yeah,
yourself up and down, moving around the country during campaigning, you had a voice to
yeah,
campaign to talk to them. But when they need you
yeah,
as a leader, as a voice, as a unifying force, then you turn yourself
yeah,
into you go out, start sitting down
yeah,
and being
yeah.
docile, passive, and then you wait for people to.
Exactly.
Then whenever people criticize the president or criticize the action of the government of the day, they attack the opposition and then they attack. They are called names, insulted. Even some at a point, I think it was
Exactly.
Garuba Shebu or whoever who insulted Professor Wale Soyinka and started saying things that he does not know about epidemiology or something like that. As if You must have a degree
yeah,
in
yeah.
epidemiology to be able to understand
So,
that you need to lock down the
yeah,
country. So
it's such a shit.
yeah.
Such a,
So it's
yeah.
really such a very huge one. So, but there is
Sorry.
something that I would want to sorry. Now, one of the people watching us said something just now, like, okay, I don't know, right now it seems envelope journalism has come to stay, as most journalists write to please existing governments. Media bias is
Mm-hmm.
so intense that the audience are left with only their sense of critical discourse analysis to connect the story. That, I mean, that you should what you have just said, you
Yeah,
know, the government is largely
yeah,
responsible for this ugly trend, as they either bribe journalists or use state apparatus
yeah,
to oppress or uphold or
yeah,
withhold news
yeah,
material from them. That's a very brilliant one.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a very
yeah,
brilliant one. So what can you
yeah.
say to? I mean, what's your response to that?
Of course, yeah. I would an apt observation.
Yeah.
Given of the Nigerian media, it's a very apt observation. Emergence of some of our media systems, especially the
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. I said earlier on,
Okay.
we can still try as much as possible to uh, give the Nigerian print media some passes, okay? Because
Okay.
if the emergence of democracy in Nigeria, you cannot just whisk away the influence and the impact of the Nigerian
Media.
journalism in the from their efforts in making sure that we actually transited to democracy.
Mm-hmm.
The partner the Nadeco,
Yeah.
as the organization on ground at that point in time, and they
Okay.
were able to wield such a very significant influence to make sure that they chased away the khaki boys.
Okay.
So with that, we want to really, I will say, we can give
Okay.
kudos to the things they've done in that regard. That was why we could see emergence of some of these journalists as politicians in the long run.
Mm.
The people of like Oshoba,
Okay.
Jack on Days. There are emergence of that kind of, because they've been part and parcel of
The
the
struggle for
fight.
democracy.
Robin, yes, so we can trace that emergence, that symbiotic relationship between the Nigerian press on one
Mm.
hand and then, of course, the Nigerian politicians. They are more like Siamese in that regard. So that is why you can't really dissect them from the system. And having said that,
Mm.
if we look at the space, the broadcast space, it's another it's another uh, site of contestation, political contestation
Mm.
on its own, sense. Because in that regard, I always say Nigeria runs a 2.5 tier model of media system. 2.5 sense that we are expected, Nigeria as a system, we are expected to have a public system, public media, private media, and of course community media. But
Mm.
in the case of Nigeria, you hardly have the public media itself, because the public is not even typically public. We can't say Nigeria as a public broadcasting station. To
Okay.
be owned by government doesn't mean it's public.
Mm.
So that in itself is halfway there. It's not fully public. Public in the sense that it is meant for the public,
Mm.
serve the public, like the model of broadcasting, are presented to the world by the BBC. That is typically public. People pay to, people fund that media. It is not from the coffers of the government. It's not from the taxpayers' money earmarked for to do the job. So the influence from the government is not as significant as what we would say with regards to the NTA, like the FRCN. These are typical government mouthpiece where not do anything anti-government within the system. It's never done. BBC can still hold some, it can still raise its head high with regards to crises, maybe the prime minister, even the monarch times with BBC venture into writing, some stinger about if it's found to be true. They always try as much as possible to be objective. Objectivity, it's a long shot anyway. So, but at least the
Okay.
relevance and then the extent to which a media is objective, it's a bit on the high side with them. But the Nigerian broadcast, it's doesn't even if we only it's only the president as we speak that has accent the issuance of licensing for to operate a broadcast outfit in Nigeria. So when you amass that kind of power, and people can't venture into community media, and we can't have a system whereby people will say, okay, we want to do our broadcasting, we are, market women, and we want to serve our own community. Why can't we have one? We are religious organizations. Why can't we have ours? We are school. Why can't we have what? Even that the ones we have in the universities and colleges as training grounds. You need to really know somebody within the presidency to get the certificate. So when you now have that kind of environment that is not completely free, you don't. It's heavily censored. Of course, you can. With the fear. Where the fear is coming from the government, because
Yes.
based on the historical events about coup d'etat, where what you need to stage your coup is the willingness of some military boys and then the next thing is to hijack the
Of power.
instrument of instrument of information. So coming from that kind of orientation, they will always want to have a military attaché present in some of these news stations. Broadcasting stations. So they are always heavily guided, and then that's why you see that all states wants to have one, serve the governor and his government, and of course the ones that are central, the FRCN, the NTA, have also are taking up the gap of being piece of the federal government. That kind of atmosphere, you don't have a typical public system that should serve the people for the people. So in that kind of environment, you are bound to see every politicization to be tilted towards what the wife of the governor or the wife of the president is doing,
The
what the
mommy.
ministers, yeah, yeah, what the ministers are doing, what the governors are. You can always measure the news content of a particular of a Nigerian media house, especially when it is broadcast, and then you can list. You can rate the proportion of the airtime they ascribe to government and government activities over what they report as maybe human interest within the general public and things like that. So that's just about the nature. So that
Yes.
is the Nigerian system. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right, and I think also I agree with you. So all that you have said, and I think I also need to repeat something, or let me say re-emphasize what one of the points that
Yeah.
you raised, and that's the fact that
Yeah.
we seem not to understand the difference between independent, then public, and then private,
Yeah.
and
So
also special
I saw.
interest media. So you
That.
see people expecting, let's say, NTA, the expectation of the people, or what they project, the way the government,
Yeah.
over the years, the government
Yeah.
has constructed, or constructed NTA as a kind of public broadcast. But we know that
Yeah.
it's just a
Even
euphemism
public. That's
for
just
it's a euphemism for propaganda. The NTA is just like
yeah.
the mouthpiece of every government in power. And not only the
Yeah.
NTA, that's the Nigerian Television Authority, but all other media
Yeah.
houses, the state
Yeah.
media houses,
And they are
they,
same. They are
yeah,
replicated. Yeah.
once a
And
new
there were some
government,
of them.
mhm,
Yeah.
once a new
The
government,
influence
once a
has
new
also gone to
one,
private ones.
yes, once a new government is in place, then you see
Yes.
them change gear. So it's
Yeah.
not really,
Exactly.
so we've not really, as a country, we've not really had, or we don't really have any, what you can call, public independent, maybe, but independent in a certain respect. But also we don't really have a public, let me say, a public television station like the BBC that is funded
No.
by from the licensing of the people, TV licenses that
Yeah.
people pay.
Yeah. Even if the government is the one paying, they don't have to.
Yeah,
The influence
no,
shouldn't.
they don't. They don't decide what. I mean, to a large extent, they don't decide what, and I mean, the entire destiny. Who should be criticized, who should not be
Yeah.
criticized. But
Yeah.
in our own situation, you hardly find NTA do a program, Nigeria do a program that will be critical of the government
Yeah.
of the day, which is
Yeah.
very now because of the advent of, that's why people now seek alternative information from other sources. Like they
Exactly.
don't trust.
They provided that atmosphere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's seen as biased, and also the
Mm.
so-called private, who should be private, that's what we should categorize as a kind of
Yeah.
independent. They are
Yeah.
also owned by some money bags, like
Yeah.
political
Who
interest.
also who are also perhaps maybe card carrying members of this the same political party.
It's like expecting TVC to criticize Tinubu. It's almost like wishing that you could sell a high I mean, to sell ice to the Eskimo, really. So it will be very
Mm.
difficult to expect that, or you expect the owner of for AIT to criticize PDP.
Yeah.
And a very recent case, I think, that should also underscore that point, is one particular guy who was formerly, not formally, who is a card carrying member of PDP, but who started hosting a program on the NTA platform. A very renowned PDP card carrying member on social media. Then he suddenly morphed into a kind of a journalist. He became a journalist, somebody who is a known card carrying member of a party, who has always been. Because of his appeal, he started running TV. Presentation, and then at the end of the day, government reacted in a way, and then the whole thing that way. So people, so that it's also difficult for people to also trust the so-called private media organization, because they also turn themselves to perpetual opposition of government, whether the government does something right or wrong. They are always, because
Mm.
they are linked so most people don't trust any of the popular media anymore. So they now revert to
Yeah.
alternative media platforms, like the blogosphere.
Exactly.
And now we've had people who
Yeah.
are illiterate, people who are ill-informed, people who
Yeah.
have little education
Yeah.
going viral,
Yeah.
because I mean, saying
Yeah.
things and then they're going
You,
viral,
yeah. Exactly.
because it's like a quantity.
When
Yeah,
it has a new structure, it drops on, it comes through their news feed on Facebook. They just, they click it or read the headline, and they take it up hook, line, and sinker. That's just it.
uh,
We haven't even left the era of media literacy. Now we are dealing with digital literacy.
yes,
So we've got a double problem in our hands. So how that's some of the jobs
yeah.
media experts should start looking into.
Okay, so we would have to bring this particular broadcast I mean, we have to end this broadcast, but I want us to, like, maybe for kind of closing remarks. Um,
Yeah.
what Because not only, I mean, it's very important that we don't only criticize, but we are also expected to prescribe in a way. It's expected of us for us to be,
Mm.
if you're objective, then we have to prescribe way forward. What can you, in your own
Yeah.
opinion, what can you say? What's your advice to the media now, then to the government? Let's have your advice now on this issue, now to manage this COVID-19 crisis in a way, the communication and information dissemination or information flow, in a way that would really be
Yeah.
useful for the people, and also ensure or curtail or ensure a certain level of trust, and also curtail the spread of misinformation.
Yeah.
Okay, so your
I
remarks.
think, yeah, I think some of these things it's enshrined in the functions of the media
Okay.
to serve as surveillance, to serve as mobilizer, to serve as entertainment when it should, and of course to inform and enlighten. See, these are primary functions of the media that every student of media should know about. So it's on that note, I will still enjoin them to strive to do more than they are currently doing.
Okay.
They are not doing badly, especially the print industry is not doing badly in terms of news construction. Of course, they also need to do more of precision journalism than the usual old narrative. If I may advise the print industry, they need to move away from the era of press releases, kind of background, and be creative in news storytelling. There
Okay.
are other models apart from writing through press releases, apart from going through press conferences and things like that. There are other models of news gathering. Because if we open up the Nigerian the printing media in Nigeria, and you
Mm.
quantify the sources of news information, you'll be alarmed at a number of quotes and attributions are just straight from the press releases, and that's where you see almost the same, almost you see all of them writing about the same issue.
Okay.
That's should be, if your source if just the same, of course, there is no way you write the same. You write the same news story. You bore your people with the same kind of information when you come about every morning, almost with the same headline or
Mm.
whatever. So that's why people look for alternative, sources to look to get their news. So,
Mm.
but in terms of the broadcast, I think they should win themselves off some of their heavy commercialization. It's I would say it's understandable that they need to generate funds. They need to run the organization. But
Mm.
when by the time you now give a 1 hour show, which has some segments of participatory programming in it,
Mm.
and then you give like 30 minutes out of 1 hour to advertisements, that's that's kind of model isn't participatory anymore. It's more like you are serving the market. If you
Okay.
quantify the content in that realm too, you will see that hardly would they be able to make two calls. Hardly would they be able to sustain three calls from the audience. How do you do that within the space of 1 hour when you have to battle with poor connectivity, battle with live streaming, some of the technology that they are taking up, which
Okay.
of course shouldn't be. A lot of them spend so much now serving audience in the diaspora using webcam to like stream some products, and you see the counts.
Mm.
It's you need to take into cognizance the time zones that your audience abroad are also. So but if
Mm.
you are doing that, you are spending so much just for 120, 200 individuals somewhere in the diaspora. If
Mm.
you think it's worthy enough, good. But but for me, I wouldn't see any reason why you have to do that to serve maybe four people, 5 people, 6 people. You don't have to go live on stream if the program is not popular. If you have got flagship program, I think you can do that people always want to listen, and then you can say you are broadcasting, and 1,000 Nigerians can be there, and the timing must also be perfect,
Mm.
for people. So you don't expect when you have 6 hours difference, and then you are now doing your program, you put it like when people are at work in the US, at work in Sweden, at work in Netherlands. It's some of the things they need to sit down and actually get well. Well, but getting themselves on some of these platforms, I think it's also good enough, because at least they will be learning. So,
Yes.
in the same way, I also want to see the same fervor, the same energy that they always use in reporting elections. I want to see that same power in the way they also report about COVID-19. That fire is not it's not there yet.
Okay. So yes, there is what one thing that okay. You've really given several, you've raised a lot of points, and I
Yeah,
hope that one way or the other, some of these points will be something that they will find very useful. That a majority of what you have said, I mean, one could say they're very, very important, not for this particular case, but for other larger
for that,
instances, especially
exactly.
involving the Nigerian media, those advice, I mean, the the point you've raised
exactly.
are mainly majorly for the media houses. But what I
Yeah.
can say is that from my own end, I think the media should do more. There should be a kind of, let me say, kind of delineation, a kind of unpacking. Let's
Mm.
know what you are for. The objective should be very clear. If
Mm-hmm.
maybe that is also a fault of the Nigerian Broadcasting, is it NBC now, the
And
Nigerian
yeah.
Commission,
Yeah.
where they should be clear when granting license to people. If you are a political party, declare your interest. Who are your sponsors? If so that would really be very clear. And also the so-called public, I think it should be made public really. Why I'm a little bit skeptical about advocating that okay, TV license should be granted is the fact that is due to the fact that if you many people would not be able to afford TV licenses in Nigeria, thereby making. But also, if we really want quality content, it should be
Yeah.
totally independent. It should be dependent on either there should be a statutory tax or something, or statutory allocation from the government that will go to them,
Yeah.
and that will
Yeah.
really take them off totally from the control of any government or any political party, where they will be
Mm.
totally independent, maybe in a way like INEC, okay, in a way
Yeah.
like INEC, where they will be independent and then they will get their own news, do everything. So they will be afraid of, they won't be scared of getting fired and what have you. Because it's very important that people, that in a country of 200 million, there should be one or two or more uh, public spirited or public interest broadcasting corporation that people can believe in, that people can platform that people can really trust to a certain extent, not
Yeah.
uh, having a platform funded by the people indirectly but controlled by any government in power, which will not really
Yeah.
serve the interest of the public. That is also
Yeah.
that's why people are looking towards alternative platforms. Because
Sources.
I
Yes.
can't remember the time. If you take a kind of statistics of viewership of some of these TV stations, you'll be
Yeah.
surprised that some of them, a lot of people don't even watch them. Anyway, people who have
Ex-
DSTV and other
ex-
platforms, they prefer to go to CNN. They trust
Yeah.
news from those platforms. Even they trust news from some YouTubers. I mean,
Yeah.
YouTubers
Exactly.
who are also masquerading as presenters now. They trust that even more than NTA and what have you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's in an
Yeah.
indictment. So that should be looked into really. And
Yeah.
also, we should also be, it's also made clear that every Nigerian government is about the people. It's not about some political elite. So the
Yeah.
government or the leadership, or whether governor or president or whoever is the politician in charge now, should
Yeah.
bear in mind that they are in office because of the people, not
Yeah.
for themselves. So if they should not, this reactionary or a kind of a defensive journalism or defensive communication where you wait for people to, you don't provide information, full information, or you provide half information, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you are called to confirm certain story, you hear, okay, as at the time of filing this report, we have not
Mm.
gotten back from the president, and then they have to publish the news. Then you wait for them to publish, then you come out to come out with a particular rejoinder to say, to rebut
Mm.
that is fake news. No. So you should create a platform. It should be open. People should have access to information, especially some of these media houses. When they are
Mm-hmm.
contacted, no need
Yeah.
for whoever is there. How can you have a PRO of a particular ministry who cannot provide a position? We have to wait for whoever, maybe wait until he gets directive from the minister or from a very higher without, before doing his or her job. And before you
Mm.
know it, people must create news. So
Yeah. We
that is something that government should look into.
it's vacuum, of
If
course.
the
Yes.
nature aid vacuum, and that is something that is very germane that you should look at. And also from my end, I also want to say that it's going to be important that we'll also have a platform, independent platform now. Okay, I think both of us
Yeah.
have discussed this offline before, so I can present
Yeah.
this as our position really.
Yeah.
That is the having a kind of independent platform where people can fact check. It will be
Yeah.
dedicated. The website, some of the website of this our so-called media, like even okay, I think I must also say this, that Lagos State, to a very large extent, have the Lagos State government and its and its agencies, they've really
Yeah.
managed this their communication aspects to some extent, and then they've managed this
Yeah.
coronavirus very well. We must really appreciate them for that, and
Yeah.
we must say that in fact Lagos State is a kind of reflection of what Nigerian government should be in
Yeah.
as regards crisis communication management. So
Yeah.
that is one thing that they should have a platform where people can fact check, people can confirm information, and where you don't create a kind of a silo or a kind of information that is not really getting out there. So that is what we want to advise. And again, the president must be presidential, must talk, must communicate. Just like you see Sanwo-Olu is everywhere. I mean, going up, even if he's not the one in charge of health, you see him beside Aki. That is leadership. Not a president who is just relaxed, who is just redundant, who is just seated waiting for people to take. So it's nature hates vacuum and all that. So it's something that we must bear in mind. So at this point, I want to take a final word from you so that we can wrap up this particular episode until Saturday, when we would have another episode on leadership response on COVID-19 so far. So Dr. Oni, what's your final thoughts?
It's nice to actually come on here and do this. At least it's the beginning of some of the things we have actually itemized to do. We can't leave the space for nonchalance, for mediocrity. We just have to come on board and do some provide alternative in the way that it should be done. It's a commendable atmosphere, it's a commendable effort, and we just hope that we will be able to sustain this hit going forward. It's going to be a responsibility, and then of course we hope that we get the right support to go further and do the needful. So
I think from my end, thank you very much. I would want to say that this is very wonderful. It's always been wonderful discussing with you. And then this particular episode is, I hope a lot of people will find it very useful. As in, we would also at some point bring in more people so that we have more guests or more discussants on the issue, on the episode, and then we increase the episode also. So we would hope to also add more content and also interrogate any political or social issues in the country in the nearest future. So from my end, I want to thank you all for joining us so far, and then also ask that you join us again on Saturday for another episode. And we shall be discussing leadership and COVID-19 and leadership response in Nigeria. So with myself, Wale Oni, and Boniface came from Sweden, we shall be discussing that. We ought to do that last week, but we're very sorry, and I think I must say that again now. We apologize for that because of some technical glitch. We are scholars mainly, so we are just trying to manage ourselves with the technical aspect of it. So we hope we'll be able to get it right at some point. And by Saturday, when you join us, the platform will be open for you to make your comments and to also make your position known. And if you feel like you want to participate as a discussant, also you are also free to inbox the Change Movement Nigeria, so that we can have you on the Nigerian Affairs on the Nigerian Affairs episode. Thank you very much. My name is Damilola Adegoke, and I want to say good night to all of you. And I think I want to say that you have a wonderful time. Dr. Oni, we hope to see you. Thank you for joining us. And then
thank you very much.
By next Saturday, we shall have a very hopefully more fruitful and more very important, very also fruitful and educating session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.